Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Around the Diocese. This is a program that shares the many ministries and programs available to everyone in Middle Tennessee, from local parishes, the Diocese of Nashville, as well as international programs from the Catholic Church. My name is Ron Flietz, and I'm blessed to be your host. Today, on Around the Diocese, we will speak with Father John Hammond, who's going to take us all through the diocese, what it is, what they do, the whole 9 yards there. Father Hammond, welcome.
Good morning, Ron. It's good to be with you today.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Before we get started on the diocese, though, can we learn a little bit about Father Hammond?
Sure. Well, I have the great joy of being the pastor of St. Patrick Church here in Nashville.
That's a beautiful church.
It's a beautiful, historic place, built in 1890. It's lovely. We have a real beautiful history, a tradition of faith there, a wonderful community. So that's a great joy of my life. I also have the privilege of working closely with our bishop, Bishop Spalding, which is also a great joy. So I serve him in the diocese as the Vicar General of the diocese. That's a job I share with Father Dexter Brewer, who's a great friend and mentor of mine, who's the pastor also at Christ the King Church on Belmont Boulevard. And then I'm also the Judicial Vicar, which means that I lead and direct our tribunal here in the diocese.
Okay. And growing up, are you from the Nashville area?
So I grew up in North Carolina.
Okay.
And I'm actually a convert to the faith. I came to Tennessee to go to college. I went to Sewanee, the University of the South, here in the Diocese of Nashville, and it was there that I became Catholic. It had been a process, a journey of faith that I'd been proceeding along earlier in my life, but that sort of came to fruition there when I was in college. And so here in Middle Tennessee is the only place I've ever been a Catholic. So it was a natural place for me to stay when I started to consider the possibility of answering the call to the priesthood. And so after college and a few years later, I went to seminary. I was ordained in 2014, so it'll be 7 years this summer. I was part of that large class. There were 9 of us ordained together that year, which was a great blessing to be part of that moment. And so the same kinds of things that led me to love the Catholic Church, the sacraments, the Holy Eucharist, confession, the tradition, the faith connected so deeply to the apostles and to the Lord himself, those kinds of things that drew me to the church in the first place also led me towards vocation to the priesthood. And it's been a wonderful life. I was the assistant priest at Christ the King, which I mentioned before with Father Dexter Brewer at first, and then I had the great privilege of spending 3 years in Rome, where I studied canon law, the law of the church, which is kind of my specialty.
Yeah.
So I spent those 3 years living there in Rome in the Eternal City, studying in those 3 years of my priesthood, and then came back in 2018 and became pastor of St. Patrick's, and then kind of gradually took on these other responsibilities.
That had to be a blessing just to be in the Vatican.
It was an incredible thing, proximity to the Holy Father, proximity to there were 7 apostles buried in Rome, and just being able to, and so many other wonderful saints and martyrs, and just being able to, visit their tombs, to pray in all the wonderful churches, to just sort of seep in, be right there amid all that history was an incredible thing.
Now, over the years, I've heard about various priests going over to Rome and such. Now, when you go there, and I know it's a little bit off topic, but I just wanted to ask you: do you live at the Vatican?
So I did not. There is actually a specific house. It's a converted monastery. House is a little bit of a perhaps a misleading term. It's a large place. There are about 80 priests living there. So basically, more or less all of the American priests who are there studying live together in this place, which is over in the old city near the Trevi Fountain. So, that was also part of the great joy, was just living right there in the middle of all of that wonderful Roman stuff.
Oh yeah. So in 2014, you became a priest, and were you assigned a parish right away, or?
So in 2014, then that's when I went to serve at Christ the King. So I was one of the priests there. I had been there before as a deacon. I knew the community very well and the other clergy. And so I was there for my first year of priesthood, and I had a lot of wonderful pastoral experiences, got to know the faithful, learned an awful lot. And then from there, went to study in Rome for those years, and then came back and started what I'm doing now.
Well, that's marvelous. Truly a great history. Now, here we are. We're at the Diocese of Nashville, where we're recording this today. And for all of us out there who may or may not know what a diocese is, can you share that as far as, the way you see it?
Yes. These things can be sort of mysterious, especially
Right.
a word like diocese that we don't use necessarily in common parlance. Sort of in its most basic definition, the term the diocese, when we talk about the Diocese of Nashville, what the diocese is, that means the territory, the geography. It means those 38 counties here in Middle Tennessee that form our diocese, the Diocese of Nashville. So it's those 38 counties, which are just basically Middle Tennessee here, over which our bishop, Bishop Spalding, has oversight, which he guides and leads and shepherds as the bishop of that diocese. So that's the kind of most precise definition of the term the diocese. Means this territory, this area, this portion of the church here in Middle Tennessee, which is then further divided into parishes. So, so for example, my own parish of St. Patrick is a little bit of Davidson County here.
Yeah, right.
Is the parish of St. Patrick, in which St. Patrick Church is located. And likewise, the diocese is, these 38 counties made up of these 58 churches. It'll be 59 this summer when Mother Teresa Parish gets going in Nolensville, our newest project.
Isn't that
very
wonderful?
Exciting, very exciting. Beautiful, really, really beautiful place that the Holy Spirit provided for us. It'll be a great place for a school and a parish there. That'll be our 59th church. So that's what the diocese is really, fundamentally, is this area, this territory, and this portion of the people of God who are here, all the people here as well, are the diocese. But then we also use that term, the diocese, to describe basically the bishop and those of us who assist him here in this building. We're in the Catholic Pastoral Center here near Opry Mills in Donaldson. Basically, the way that the bishop guides and shepherds and supports all of the parishes, all of the people, all of the ministries here in the diocese. That's what kind of we do here at the diocese, using that term in that different way. It basically just means the bishop and the, 50 or so people here at the Catholic Pastoral Center who assist him in his role, basically, of shepherding this church.
Okay, so you mentioned before that you are Vicar General and Judicial Vicar, is that correct?
That's right. So these are, again, very mysterious terms that I can try to kind of unpack and explain.
Sure.
If you think about it a little bit like our civic government, we have an executive branch and a judicial branch and a legislative branch. The same is basically true in the church in the way that we organize ourselves, except that we don't have separation of powers. The bishop is all three. The bishop is the legislator, the bishop is the executive, and the bishop is the judge. Now, he can't do all that by himself. And so that's why he has those 50 or so of us here in this building to help him. In terms of him as legislator, basically any of our kind of local norms and policies are the bishop's responsibility to produce. That's him. He does that kind of himself. In terms of call it the judicial branch, the way in which conflict is resolved, the way that justice is sought, the bishop does that generally through the tribunal here, which is one of the departments here at the diocese. I'm the judicial vicar, which means that a vicar is somebody who kind of works on behalf of the boss.
Yeah,
so he's the boss, I'm his vicar, which means I help him do that part of his job. And our tribunal, most of its work is to assist people who have found themselves in various kinds of broken relationships and might be asking the question of the church as to whether they might be free to marry again.
I see.
So, it's sometimes called the annulment process.
Okay.
That's kind of where the tribunal does most of its work.
Interesting. I never knew that. Uh-huh.
And that's kind of what I oversee as judicial vicar there. But most of the diocese here is what you might consider in the executive branch of government. So the bishop, as the person who guides and leads and supports all the parishes, he does that through, people like the faith formation office, the youth office, the vocations office to provide for the next generations of priests. All of these departments here at the diocese are ways that the bishop basically shepherds the church, and we all help him to do that. So my other sort of mysterious fancy title of Vicar General basically means that I help the bishop with all those things too.
I see. Okay. Wow. It's there's a lot to it. When you stop and think about it.
There is, and really that's because there's so much involved in the mission of the church. We obviously our primary experience of the church is at Mass, in the celebration of the sacraments, in our prayers, but we also run a large and very vibrant school system. Catholic Charities is an incredible source of outreach to those in need here in our community. We do so much partnering with the state and the city and the outlying counties here in the diocese, and there's so much good work done there. We're constantly at work to try to spread the faith through various ways, like the radio, podcast, these kinds of things that help us to promote and spread the good news of our faith. So there's an awful lot involved in the mission of the church, and the bishop is called to kind of promote and oversee all of that. So that's kind of what we help him do.
Now, so you being the Vicar General and the Judicial Vicar, then there are other people that work within here, and as you and I had talked before, it's almost, in a way, looks like a little bit like a corporation, but maybe with a little bit different name. Sure.
So there's kind of two main sort of areas of work that the diocese is involved in, and the law of the church. I'm a canon lawyer, so I can't resist talking about the law sometimes.
Go for it.
The law of the church basically sets this up so that there's kind of one side of the house here that is concerned directly with supporting ministry, direct ministry. So that's things like the youth office, let's say, or the faith formation office. These departments here at the diocese that try to support the parishes directly in their ministries specifically. And then the ministries that we coordinate directly here at the diocese, like Search, which is a wonderful program of our youth office. So those kinds of things. And then there's sort of more administrative areas. So we have a finance office that, assists the parishes with all of their financial activities. We have risk management. We have insurance. We have human resources. We have all those kind of administrative things as well. Now, fortunately for everyone, I don't have to oversee those kinds of things because I wouldn't be any good at it. So that sort of side of the house is overseen by another sort of mysterious-sounding title called the Moderator of the Curia.
Okay.
So technically speaking, this kind of the bishop's office, the diocese here, is technically known as the Diocesan Curia.
Okay.
And it has a moderator, which is the person who oversees all of those acts of administration. We are very fortunate, oftentimes that's a priest, we're very fortunate here in the diocese to have, we really believe in this principle of co-responsibility between clergy and laity. So, we clergy want to take full advantage of the talents and experiences of so many talented lay people that we have here in the diocese. One of those extraordinarily talented and faithful laypersons is the person who does our moderator of the Curia work. His name is Brian Cooper. He's we call him the Chief Operations Officer of the diocese. He's also the Chancellor.
Okay.
And that means that he basically oversees and directs all of those things. He and I work very closely together because in the church, everything administrative has a pastoral element. And everything pastoral has an administrative element, and these things should always support each other. So this is where his expertise as a businessman, as a banker, as a leadership coach, these kinds of things, and then my knowledge and expertise as a canon lawyer, as a priest, as someone with pastoral training, these things support each other kind of beautifully in the way that we operate here. So,
well, it sounds like it. And that's very unique to know. When I step back and think about it, having been a convert myself, sometimes I look at the diocese, and that's one of the greatest reasons to have you as a guest here to really help clear up my mind. To know what all a diocese is, and I guess from my standpoint, I looked at it that. Okay, the bishop runs the whole 9 yards, and gosh, he's a busy guy.
Yes, and in a sense, that's true. That the bishop is the authority figure. He is the source of this leadership that God is providing for us in the diocese. But the bishop is called to gather collaborators, and our bishop does this very well. Tries to find people who have a vision of ministry, a vision of service to our parishes, a vision of kind of selfless labor for the good of the kingdom, and people who are really quite competent as well. And this is where there is a sense in which we take the business side of things very seriously because the faithful are so generous with the church, with their time, with their financial resources, with their love, with their hearts. We don't want to be poor stewards. We want to have good business practices. We want to have good employment practices. We want to take good care of this great responsibility that both the Lord and the faithful are entrusting to us. So we take that pretty seriously.
Absolutely. Now, within the jurisdiction here, and as you mentioned before, there's Catholic Charities, which it does a tremendous job.
Yes,
and they're based out of this building,
right?
As well as let's see, Office of Catholic Education.
Certainly. So these are good examples of what I was mentioning before about how broad the church's mission is. So part of the diocese here is, for example, the Catholic Schools Office, which they function to help the bishop to support and give appropriate oversight to both the parochial schools of our diocese, namely those schools that are attached to parishes. But then also, we have 2 diocesan high schools, Father Ryan High School, and then Pope John Paul II, which is becoming a middle and high preparatory school starting this year, which is another very exciting thing. And then we also assist other Catholic educational institutions that aren't sort of ours directly, but which we also support in various ways, like St. Bernard's, St. Bernard's School, and the Dominicans. We have a wonderful relationship with the Dominican sisters, who obviously operate their own schools and also assist us with some of ours. So, there's a lot of coordination, a lot of planning, a lot of sort of strategy and tactics involved in trying to do all that effectively.
I see. So St. Bernard's and St.
Cecilia Overbrook.
Okay, they are separate from they're under the diocese in some way, shape, or form,
but differently.
Right.
Because, for example, with the Dominicans, the Dominicans run their own schools, but we have a kind of collaborative relationship with them so that we can help them with certain things. There are certain areas where the bishop does have some oversight responsibilities, but they are kind of, they're not technically speaking, directly overseen by the diocese. There are also various other Catholic entities in town that we assist with that fall under the bishop's oversight, like Camp Marymount.
Okay.
For example, our Catholic summer camp, more than a summer camp, our camp throughout the year. Calvary Cemetery, our Catholic cemetery here in Nashville. Those are good examples. We have a very beautiful lower income housing project in East Nashville called Marina Manor East.
Really?
That there's just so much good that our church does here in Middle Tennessee, some of which you might never know about.
No, would have never known about it.
And Mary Queen of Angels is another wonderful example, our Catholic retirement community. And the property next to it, Villa Maria Manor, which is a lower cost elder housing facility. These are also entities that fall under the oversight of the diocese and the bishop. It's a very exciting thing to be part of, because there's just so much. And of course, nothing is more important than our 58 churches. Those places where day in, day out, there's so much beautiful ministry that takes place.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that was impressive to me, and though this is not a diocese function, it has to do with the diocese in as much that as of 2019, I think we have 85,600 Catholics in Middle Tennessee.
Yes. Now, it's very hard to get an accurate number for various reasons. So that's kind of our, that's our official count. But, we have brothers and sisters who might come to this country in this area in a way that is not fully documented, and we might not know about all of them in terms of numbers. This city is growing so quickly that actually our Catholic population is growing at a faster rate than the city in general. So, where
I totally believe that.
We've often used the figure of, our diocese is only about 3% Catholic, but that number's increasing. Because so many of the people moving here are moving from Catholic places. I mean, certainly various parts of the Latino world, but also other areas of the United States that, people are moving to Nashville from that may be more historically Catholic. They're bringing their faith and their love of the church with them.
Yeah, a lot of the West Coast as well as folks from up north.
That's right, the Rust Belt, parts of New England. So it's an exciting time. We're in an enviable position of needing to figure out how to build churches rather than how to close them, which would be the case in so many other parts of the country.
No, that's very true.
So we've got this wonderful project in Nolensville that's underway. There are needs for new churches in other places too.
Now the parish in Nolensville, you said will open up sometime over the summer?
That's right. So, the church building won't be up yet, obviously. There's nothing on the property yet but a beautiful pasture, which will be such a wonderful place.
The pictures are beautiful,
it's
I
a lovely
can well
place.
imagine what it's going to be like.
But the parish will be officially up and running this summer as a community. The first pastor's been appointed, Father Anthony Stewart, who's very well beloved at Holy Family Church in Brentwood now. There's already a community forming, of a few hundred families. They've got some temporary spaces that they're sorting through now. So there will be masses at Mother Teresa Parish starting at some point, probably late this summer.
Oh, that's exciting.
Which is very, very exciting. And then work will also begin soon on the beginnings of the school. There, which we're eyeing to be sort of a regional kind of school project that, even though it'll obviously be physically located and have a special relationship with Mother Teresa Parish, St. Michael Academy, as it will be called, will be intended to serve, that whole region, which it's kind of situated, the campus kind of centrally located, with a ring of parishes around it, but none is too close.
Right.
And it's such a growth area. So
yeah, I mean, it is. The whole area around here is just growing like weeds.
Indeed.
So we'll have that parish that we'll have to look forward to, and I'm sure a lot more coming down the pike.
Now, thank you. Yes.
Anything that I've missed, okay? Any fun facts that I have missed upon here?
Well, one thing that's just interesting about our history is that despite the fact that our Catholic population has historically been rather small proportionately, it's been very strong and very durable. So our diocese was founded in 1837. We're very old, actually, as a diocese, as American dioceses go. And the Diocese of Nashville was, in fact, the entire state of Tennessee until 1970.
That's right, yeah.
West Tennessee was sort of carved off to become the Diocese of Memphis. And then in 1988, East Tennessee became the Diocese of Knoxville. But prior to that, it was our diocese was the entire state, which would have been an even more daunting kind of pastoral set of pastoral needs for the bishop and those who helped him. Because you would go from Bristol to Memphis, and
yeah, that'd be well overwhelming.
So. Especially now with all the growth. So it's a great blessing, and we have good relationships with our sister dioceses to the west and east.
And we are part of the Archdiocese of Louisville, correct?
And that's an interesting thing, too. So, yes, we are part of, it's called a province. And the province is basically the states of Kentucky and Tennessee. So we have a very, very kind of loose oversight provided by the Archdiocese of Louisville, the Archbishop of Louisville, who, in addition to being the bishop of his own diocese, then kind of coordinates the pastoral efforts for this province, which is the 7 dioceses in Tennessee and Kentucky.
Yeah, interesting. You don't know how much I have appreciated learning so much about it. You certainly are a well-learned man. I'd love to sit here and talk to you about canon law and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that's a future Around the Diocese program. Yes. That would just be marvelous to me. Well, anyhow, we want to thank Father Hammond for taking the time out today to share with us all about the Diocese of Nashville, and hopefully you felt that it was informative to you as well. I look forward to joining you again next week for another edition of Around the Diocese. Both Father Hammond and I thank you for sharing your precious time with us today. Around the Diocese is made possible through the generous donations of our listeners and sponsors and the Diocese of Nashville, shining the light of our Catholic faith in everyday life. This is Nashville Catholic Radio, 100.5 FM, and streaming at nashvillecr.com.